Good morning, everyone. We celebrate this Sunday as St. Alban's Day. St. Alban is a martyr of our church and the patron saint of the liberal Catholic Church around the whole world. Each church might have their own patron saint. Our patron saint here in our parish is St. Michael and all angels. We include all the angels in that. But St. Alban is the patron saint of the liberal Catholic Church throughout the whole world, and that's the celebration we have today. The life of St. Alban was when he was a Roman in part of what we now call England, close to London. And that was a story of a nobleman, which means he would have been involved in the mystery schools of that time, the Romans, typically the Mithraic mystery schools. Not Christianity, but still having roots that are not dissimilar to the deep roots of Christianity. We can say at the very least he had a deep understanding of the importance of spiritual things. And he would have had to have had, before he did this particular act, which was protect one of his servants from being dragged off. And this servant was a Christian. And it was the time of purges of Christians. And he was protecting this particular servant. When we think about those circumstances, it's easy to be quite glib and just say, oh, well, that's sort of rough and tumble of those days, Roman legions and all that stuff. But still, we just have to pause for a moment and think of the feelings of the people involved. Their feelings of anxiousness and fear and pain are identical to ours. And so, where does this sudden great strength of character come from? Where does this great fearlessness suddenly arise? That's why we think about martyrs, if you like, not to dwell on all the gory stuff, but just to reflect on what does it take to be that sure, that certain within ourselves that that's the right thing to do. In this case, give up your life. In the Gospel appointed for today from St. Matthew, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he's using these strong examples, if you like, analogies, these strong words to bring this message home. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever shall save his life will lose it. So immediately we see this conundrum. What is Jesus talking about? So we can sort of understand the first bit. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So what does denying himself mean in this context? It means, where do you place your emphasis? What do you really, really believe in? What are you prepared to do really extreme things for? So we see a lot of extreme things in our life. In fact, television is now full of extreme sports. This is what we do, a lot of extreme sports. It's got to be extreme to be exciting. So some of those physical things are amazing. The soldiers from the SAS just get ordinary people. Well, maybe they get film stars, which are celebrities. Even more difficult perhaps for them, where they've got to do these extraordinary physical feats. But one of the things you might notice, if ever you watch any of that stuff, is that it's not really physical, it's mental. When it's turned to the world of sport, when you look at sports people operating at the highest level, men and women, they're all about as fit as one another. They can all do the things, the skill set, pretty much as one another. Who wins a game? The person who most wants to win. The person with the strength of character and the person that holds it foremost in their mind. When their knees get sore, or their muscles get sore, or sweat gets in their eyes, it's secondary. They have this fierce determination to do what they set out to do. So that fierce determination comes from a special place in our makeup. And what Jesus is saying is, if you really want to find yourself in all this turmoil, if you really want to find me, the Christ, within you, you've got to have that level of determination. You've got to identify with that path as the most strongest thing in your life, the highest priority. So that when push comes to shove, and even more drastically in St. Alban's case, when his life was put on the line because of the edicts from the emperor, if you declare yourself in public as a Christian, you will die. In order to really hold that and not to give up that, you have to be very sure you're right as an individual. That's the degree of commitment. So when we say, then, in the collect, we praise thee, O Lord, for the example and assistance given to us by the Holy Martyr St. Alban. The example and assistance. The example is his fierce connection, his fierce recognition that this is the right thing to do, and the ongoing assistance beyond death that he extends to this part of the Christian world beyond death. And then the collect goes on, under his protection, thy church may continually serve thee in all good works. So that's the admonition for us to do that. This is also the second Sunday after Trinity, and the intent today as light, God is light, the connection of light with God. And the second Sunday after Trinity, the collect says, O Father of light, in whom there is no darkness at all, may our hearts be so irradiated by thy glory that thy divine love, that we may shine as beacons amid the stormy seas of life with that connection with the divine love. So that intensity, that picture that those words paint, that's the connection which Christ is saying. If you really want to follow this path, I'm not saying rush out and give your life up. That's the last thing I'm saying. I'm saying work out what your priorities are, and if it's not me, have a second look. Of course you've got to go to work, and of course you've got to do this and you've got to do that. We've all got duties and obligations, of course. But what he's saying is they shouldn't be the top priorities. And if you're in the thick of life and it's really difficult, you must have prepared beforehand to have connection with me. When men and women go to war, we can see it from the stories they tell when they return, those that return, and we can see it in the depictions of movies, that before a battle starts, this intensity of concentration, all else is secondary. Suddenly, these men and women are confronted with the real possibility that they will come to harm and might even die. Everything else goes out the window. It's secondary. What they look like, what their name is, what they did in their lives, how important anybody thinks they are, all gone. And with that intensity of concentration, they face the next few steps that they'll take, the next few experiences that they have. That's the commitment of the process that Christ is asking for. That's what should happen on a daily basis for Christians as they're assessing their path. Where are they on the path? Where are we on the path? St. Alban then went through that process and got the clarity that he really needed to follow all the way through, to defend his household, to defend these servants, just material things in terms of that time of the world, that part of history, and then to commit himself to that intensity of commitment. So that's what we celebrate today, not all the gory stuff. What we celebrate today is the recognition that here is a lesson for us in these Trinity Sundays. Second Sunday in Trinity of God is light. That's the light. That's the intensity of light. And that's what it brings with it. That connection with the Christ within us is the highest priority in our life. And so everything else is illuminated with that intensity. And our feet then are on the path that's appointed for us.